I started playing Bloodborne again, got back into the PvPs, and I've come to the realization that I still haven't found the right weapon for me. It's like the most important part of these games. You gotta find a weapon that clicks. Then the DLC was announced and that solved all my problems. Welcome to part 1 of my DLC progress. We'll be exploring these new lands on the hunt for brand new weapons to add to my arsenal, and hopefully we'll find that one special weapon that sings to me. And we can be king of the hunters, the best hunter there ever was. Alright, so I started out like everybody else, getting picked up here in the Cathedral ward and getting teleported to the Hunter's Nightmare. Straight away you can see why I love this DLC so much. Some of it is quite familiar, but in a twisted, forgotten sense. It's literally like being in a nightmare version of previous places you've been to, but still feeling very new and tense. So currently I'm rocking my Blade of Mercy comboed with the Burial Blade. I just like to get a mix of short reach and long reach weapons for different situations, you know. And now we have our first opponent, or should I say our first victim, because of course I'm going to destroy this pathetic creature with absolutely no problem. Actually, the first thing to note is that the DLC is high level content. It's pretty tough. There's lots of these big hunters early on, which can be challenging, especially if you can't stun lock them very easily. But that being said, the weapon this hunter has is awesome. It'd be a shame if it were to drop on the ground for me to take. Nope. Then I came across this wide open space and began surveying the area, because you know, you gotta scout out where you're gonna get ambushed from. Then what do you know, as I'm looking out for future surprise attacks, I get surprise attacked. Then I jumped down and moved on to the rest of these little... Crap, there's 3 of them. And there's freaking hunters too. These fights can get quite crazy because the hunters hate the beasts and the beasts hate the hunters and everyone hates you, so it just turns into a massive free-for-all. I ended up killing most of them and then realized that the beasts are scared of my torch. But yeah, it's kind of more sad this way because now it feels like I'm causing an endangered species to go extinct. Alright, moving on, I found this gentleman with an absolutely badass exploding mace thingy. It was a glorious battle. To be honest, I thought the weapon he had might be just the perfect thing for me. Could our search end in victory so soon? Could we find the weapon we've been waiting for? It would definitely be a shame if it dropped on the floor. Damn it, I don't care about blood vials. You are never gonna guess what happened next though. We found a weapon, boys. Yeah, it turns out there was a beast cutter lying right next to him. And you know what? This weapon is actually pretty cool. It's basically the strength version of the threaded cane. It swings fairly slow, but when you use the extended version, the reach is actually impressive. Definitely one to consider, although I probably only have enough materials to fully upgrade one weapon. So I think we're going to finish the DLC and then try and get all the weapons before we choose one to stick with. Traveled a bit further on and came across the old Hunter set, which actually has pretty decent stats. You know what, I think I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10 for fashion. Not bad, pretty good. Then we reached the Cathedral. Now here I'm just minding my own business, walking up the stairs. I can see a couple of guys up ahead that don't look too much trouble. Pretty sure I can take them no problem. Oh dear. Now this was a fun fight. I actually did beat this guy. You can interrupt him and riposte, which helps a lot, but he's an awesome mini-boss. I like his design a lot. Anyway, with the entrance now free, I walked inside and got so confused. It looked like there was going to be a boss fight against this flaming cleric beast just chilling. I was getting so pumped for the first DLC boss, you know, getting hyped for a good fight, but nope. This guy ain't got time for that. Turns out you can't fight this guy just yet. You gotta wait till you pick up Lawrence's skull, which is a bit further on in the DLC. Quite a good troll by FromSoft though, I'll admit, you got me. Get me all scared of this huge boss, and then turns out I don't have to fight him right now anyway. Alright, so what happened next was I found this machine gun section. Some great level design here actually. For example, I was running from cover to cover to avoid the bullet storm without noticing the pressure plate on the floor that triggered another Gatling gun over to the right. Something I would have noticed if I had taken my time and been a bit more careful. Oh, and also one of the guns might have destroyed me, but we'll quickly forget about that and just move on. Quick side note to that though, if you're like me and you died in the DLC, then you might have had trouble getting back. I spent like 10 minutes looking through all of the headstones trying to find out how to teleport back to the DLC area, before eventually realizing that there's a new headstone that's appeared up the stairs over to the left of the house. So yeah, slightly embarrassing that it took me so long, but this new headstone will have all the teleports to the DLC areas. A bit later on, I actually found that boom hammer weapon from earlier. It seemed like a really awesome weapon, quite intimidating too, which I'm a big fan of, but I didn't quite have the stats for it, so I just kept it for later. Oh, that's something I noticed actually. A huge amount of the new DLC weapons were strength based, which in a way is good because there wasn't really that many strength weapons in the base game. It's just a shame because the character I used is more of a skill blood-tinged build. After continuing on our merry way, I came across this beast. And no, it actually is a hunter in beast form. I'm not too sure, but I believe there's a new type of rune that allows you to transform into a beast, at least partially anyway. And I don't know, I decided to fight him fairly, you know, like hand-to-hand combat without using gun riposts. And the fight was very fun, just in general really, although I think gun riposts are a really cool feature and definitely necessary for some parts of the game. I found that often it's more exciting to fight without using that technique, especially with certain bosses. Anyway, I slayed him and he dropped the firing hammer badge, which allows you to buy the piercing rifle from the messengers back in the Hunter's Dream. Supposedly this rifle can shoot bullets that go through multiple opponents, hence the name. But I haven't tested it yet, so I don't know. The next area we go through puts the blood in Bloodborne. It's actually disgusting. And to top it off, we have these monstrosities. They're like giant blood sacks with legs. They're just so grim. And when you kill them, they pop like a mosquito. Just blood everywhere. You can tell the designers had fun with this one, can't you? If you can get past them, you can sneak on into this cave, where I firstly found this Gatling gun hunter. It wasn't actually too hard to beat him, since you can just kite him around this big rock pillar. This time, however, he's pretty much the first hunter to freaking drop his gun when he dies. Looks pretty sweet. Again, I don't have quite the requirements to use it, but I can't wait to test it out at some point. I bet you can get up to all kinds of fun with that bad boy. Right, it turned out this cave was much more deadly than I thought though. I went a bit deeper and woke up what I think is something similar to the Bloodstarved beast. I don't know why, but I found this fight really difficult. It moves so quick and it's hard to see because it's so dark. Not to mention, it just hits like a truck. I came close to death a fair few times. It has some crazy combos. It took me a good 3 minutes to beat it as well, but I eventually managed, first time luckily, and it was so worth it because it dropped a warm, damp blood gem, which is very rare, and it popped up the achievement. Very, very nice. The DLC is so great for weapon hunting, by the way. I found yet another weapon in this cave, the Amygdalan arm, or however you say it, which might be the most creatively designed weapon I've seen in Bloodborne. Honestly, serious props to whoever came up with the idea for this weapon. It is so awesome. There weren't that many weapons in the main game, so it was pretty rare to find any weapons at all, but at least in the DLC you find new weapons pretty regularly, which it just makes the searching feel more fruitful. Getting more used to these guys now. It always takes a bit of time to learn how new enemies move and react, but we got them without too much trouble. I also thought that this area is actually beautiful in a grim kind of way. I don't know, I just like the aesthetic look of a lot of these new areas. Also, screw you crows. Headshot. At the top of that ladder, up from that area, I had this weird moment where my camera zoomed further out than normal. For some reason, I'm leaning more towards that it's supposed to be that way, but I just can't quite figure out why they did it. There was only one hunter to fight there anyway. So after that, I walked over this hill crest and reached the final area just before the first boss fight. All that stood in my way before me and the first boss was one of these huge guys from earlier. Except this one had a freaking cannon and then actually ended up ganking me with one of his buddies. So dishonorable, I couldn't believe it. Seriously though, these enemies are cool. Once you get the axe guy to around half health, I think he buffs himself and applies an area of effect to his weapon. It looks great and does a good job of switching up the fight. It sort of forces you to be more careful and dodge better and pick your attacks more wisely. And then just off to the side beyond those two was the Butcher's set. Not a bad theme for a set of clothes in this game, I guess, but not quite my style. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. this is the first boss in the DLC. It is insane. It's just insane. It is without a doubt one of the best fights in Bloodborne. And you know how boss fights have different stages? Well, I think this boss has one of the most impactful ones. Once you get the boss to half health, he stands upright and unleashes, wait for it, the one and only Moonlight Blade. Seriously an amazing start to the DLC. I know my Twitter timeline was flooded by people talking about this on release day. It was a pretty incredible moment for the community. And of course FromSoft did not let us down. It is actually possible to use the Moonlight Greatsword for yourself. Not only that, but in most cases it's a very challenging boss as well. Even though I died countless times, I actually never minded at all. But I just felt like I knew I was going to win and that it would feel like an immense achievement accomplished when I did. The only attack I would say I wasn't really a huge fan of was this leap attack. It would occasionally leap high into the air above your camera view and just hover above you for a while before slamming down on top, usually one-shotting your character. But to be fair, maybe there was a way of avoiding that I just didn't know about. But I think the king of its attacks, in terms of the most devastating attack that this boss has, I would definitely say it's this one. In the second stage, it can slam its sword down and do an absolutely brutal magic shockwave attack that if it catches you, it will kill you, no question. That being said, I did soon figure out all you need to do really is stay very close to this boss and just dodge around behind it when it does this attack. This was the round where I actually ended up defeating Ludwig the Accursed. I decided very early on that I was going to do it solo. Initially I did try some of the NPC summons, but I thought no, for my first time I'm going to do this properly, I'm going to do this solo, and I enjoyed it so much more. I did it using the Burial Blade, I think it was +8 or something, not even very good gems. My character is definitely not overpowered or anything, but still, it was such a very, very enjoyable fight for me. Really set the tone for the rest of what was to come. So, that is one boss down, 4 more to go. See you in the next episode.